High Counselor Zenlax adjusted his crystalline ceremonial robes as he gazed out at the assembled representatives of the Galactic Confederation. 300 of the most advanced civilizations in known space gathered in the Great Chamber of Harmony on Centaurus Prime. Their decision today would reshape the galaxy's future, though not in the way any of them expected. The motion to classify Sol 3 as a harvestable labor world stands before the Council, Zenlax announced, his translator converting his harmonic speech into the standard galactic frequency. Our preliminary assessment has confirmed that while the indigenous species has achieved rudimentary spaceflight, they remain centuries behind even our most basic technological standards. Admiral Nyxis, the military commander of the Confederation's expansion fleet, stepped forward. Her bioluminescent skin pulsed with patterns of absolute confidence. My scouts report that these humans still rely on chemical propulsion for their sparse orbital operations. Their military capabilities are limited to projectile weapons and primitive atomic devices. They pose no threat to our harvesting operations. In the observation gallery above, junior analyst Cree watched the proceedings with growing unease. She had spent the past 3 cycles studying Earth's information networks, and something about the humans troubled her. "Permission to address the Council," she called out, her voice trembling slightly. Zenlax's secondary eyes swiveled toward her with annoyance, but tradition demanded that even the lowest-ranked observer be heard during harvest classification debates. "Proceed, analyst." "Respected Council members, my research indicates that humans display unusual adaptability and resistance to unified control. Their historical records show constant technological innovation during periods of conflict. I recommend further study before." "Thank you, Analyst Cree," Zenlax interrupted. "But we have harvested 47 pre-FTL species in the past millennium. Our protocols are well established." His dismissal was met with murmurs of agreement from the Assembly. Fleet Commander Daxon, recently appointed to lead the harvesting operation, activated the chamber's holographic display. A detailed map of Earth's military installations appeared, marked for systematic neutralization. The operation will proceed in 3 phases. First, we demonstrate our overwhelming technological superiority by disabling their primitive defense systems. Then, we present our demands for surrender. Finally, we begin the integration of their population into our labor distribution network. The Council members nodded in approval. It was the same efficient process they had used countless times before. Admiral Nyxis added, "Our simulations predict total compliance within 14 planetary rotations. These humans will serve as an excellent workforce for our outer colony expansion." Only Cree noticed that the human military installations seemed suspiciously obvious, almost as if they were meant to be found. Her research had uncovered references to something humans called contingency planning and asymmetric warfare. But such concepts were alien to the Confederation's orderly military doctrine. The final vote was unanimous. Earth would be harvested, its population redistributed throughout the Confederation as a labor force. Zenlax sealed the decision with his ceremonial staff, its crystal tip leaving an indelible mark in the chamber's recording crystal. "Let the record show that on this day, the Galactic Confederation has accepted Sol 3 into its domain. The harvest will commence in 30 cycles." As the chamber emptied, Cree made one last attempt to voice her concerns to Commander Daxon. "Sir, there's something about their entertainment media that concerns me. They seem to have countless scenarios about resisting technologically superior invaders." Daxon's laugh cut her off. "Fiction, young analyst, nothing more. These humans imagine themselves capable of great things, but imagination cannot stand against our gravitic weapons and quantum shields." He patted her shoulder condescendingly. "Focus on cataloging their language groups for the labor distribution process. That's where your skills will be most useful." High above Earth, cloaked observation satellites continued their silent watch, transmitting data to hidden facilities deep beneath the planet's surface. In one such facility, Director Marcus Chen of the Global Defense Initiative studied the latest intercepted transmissions from the alien fleet gathering at the edge of the solar system. "They're actually going to try it," he mused, turning to his chief of operations, Colonel Helena Voss. They really believe we're primitive savages who will simply bow down before their superior technology. Voss smiled grimly as she reviewed the activation codes for Project Phoenix. How many safeguards and countermeasures did we hide from their scans? All of them, Chen replied. 30 years of preparing for this moment, and they didn't spot a single one. Their arrogance is absolute. He pressed his palm against the facility's main security scanner. Initiate silent mobilization. When they come to harvest humanity, we'll teach them why you should never judge a species by its visible technology alone. In the depths of space, the Confederation's harvest fleet began its final preparations, blissfully unaware that they were about to face a humanity that had been expecting them for generations. The Confederation's harvest fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, 5,000 ships strong. Commander Daxon stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Dominion, admiring the primitive blue world below. Earth's modest orbital installations and satellites seemed laughably inadequate against his armada's might. Begin the demonstration phase, he ordered. Disable their primary military installations as planned. The first volley of quantum disruption beams lanced toward Earth's surface. But instead of the expected destruction, something unprecedented happened. The beams scattered harmlessly against invisible energy barriers that shouldn't have existed. Impossible, Admiral Nyxus breathed, her bioluminescence flickering with shock. They have shield technology, how did we miss? A massive burst of energy erupted from Earth's surface, not from any known military installation, but from what their scans had dismissed as a primitive solar power facility. The blast tears through 3 Confederation capital ships before they could raise their own shields. In the Global Defense Initiative's primary command center, Director Chen watched the alien fleet's formation break apart in confusion. 30 years of hiding our true capabilities, he said to Colonel Voss. Worth every sacrifice. Launch the Phantom Squadrons. Across the planet, what appeared to be normal civilian structures transformed. Office buildings split open to reveal launch bays. Underground parking structures disgorged swarms of fighters. Ordinary communications satellites reconfigured into weapon platforms. Analyst Cree, monitoring the invasion from the Confederation's tactical center, felt her earlier unease transform into horror. They knew we were coming, she reported to the increasingly agitated High Council. Not just knew, they were waiting for us. The human response was unlike anything in Confederation military doctrine. Their fighters didn't maintain formal formations, but moved in chaotic patterns that made them nearly impossible to target. Their weapons combined reverse-engineered alien technology with human innovations in ways that bypassed standard Confederation defenses. How are they blocking our quantum communications? Daxon demanded as another squadron of ships went dark. Where are these interference patterns coming from? A junior officer, his scales pale with stress, brought up a new analysis. Sir, they're using their planet's magnetic field as a weapon. They've somehow transformed their entire magnetosphere into a disruption web. In New Delhi, Dr. Priya Patel adjusted the controls of the global magnetosphere manipulation network. Quantum field disruption at maximum, she reported to Chen. Their ships are fighting blind up there. The Confederation's careful battle plans crumbled in the face of human ingenuity. When they tried to land troops in major cities, they found the urban centers had been prepared for this moment for decades. Buildings were fortified bunkers in disguise. Subway systems concealed vast underground military complexes. Commander Daxon watched in disbelief as his ground forces reported one defeat after another. Human soldiers seemed to appear from nowhere, using weapons that combined projectile technology with energy fields in ways that penetrated Confederation armor. Their tactics ignored all standard rules of engagement. They're not fighting like primitives, Admiral Nyxus realized too late. They're fighting like they've spent generations preparing for this exact moment. In London, Major James O'Connor led his hybrid warfare unit through the city's underground network. Their powered armor suits, reverse-engineered from scattered pieces of alien tech recovered over decades, made them more than a match for the invaders. They expected us to fight like the military they saw on the surface, he told his troops. They never considered that every civilian installation could be a military asset in disguise. The Confederation's invasion force found itself caught in a trap centuries in the making. Human resistance wasn't just military, it was total. Civilian infrastructure revealed hidden military purposes. Communication networks proved to be weaponized. Even the planet's natural systems had been turned into defensive weapons. Cree, watching the disaster unfold, finally understood what she had sensed in her research. They never stopped preparing, she reported to the increasingly desperate council. Every piece of their civilization, every advancement, was built with this moment in mind. We didn't find their military installations because their entire planet is a military installation. In orbit, the proud Confederation fleet was in chaos. Their sophisticated targeting systems were useless against humans' seemingly random combat patterns. Their ship's artificial intelligence couldn't adapt to human unpredictability. What should have been a simple harvest operation had turned into a military disaster. Director Chen allowed himself a grim smile as he watched the alien fleet's formation disintegrate. "Send the signal to all commands," he ordered. "Begin Phase 2. Around the planet, hidden silos opened. What the Confederation had dismissed as primitive rocket installations revealed themselves to be launching platforms for something far more advanced. Humanity's real space fleet, built in secret over decades, rose to join the battle. All these years, Colonel Voss mused, watching the holographic display of Earth's forces engaging the alien fleet. Every technological advancement we showed them was carefully chosen. Every piece of military hardware they saw was a decoy. And now the Confederation was learning the costly lesson of underestimating humanity. Their mighty harvest fleet was being systematically destroyed by a species they had dismissed as primitive. The greatest military force in the galaxy was falling before an enemy that had spent generations preparing for this very day. In the Confederation Tactical Center, Cree prepared her final report to the Council. "We didn't just underestimate their military capability," she wrote. "We underestimated their fundamental nature. Every aspect of human civilization was built around the possibility of this conflict. They're not just fighting an invasion. They're fulfilling a purpose their entire species has been preparing for since they first looked up at the stars and wondered if they were alone." 6 months after the failed invasion, the Galactic Confederation faced an unprecedented situation. They were no longer the hunters, but the hunted. The remnants of their once mighty harvest fleet had retreated to the fortress world of Nexus Prime, carrying warning of humanity's devastating counteroffensive. Grand Admiral Thex, newly appointed after Nixus's disgrace, stood before the emergency session of the High Council. "The humans have not only mastered our technology, they've transformed it. Their ships are appearing in systems we thought secure, using drive signatures we can't track." Dr. Priya Patel stood in the command center of the EFS Prometheus, Earth's first officially acknowledged deep space carrier. The ship represented humanity's true technological achievement, a perfect fusion of reverse-engineered alien tech and human innovation. "Fleet status?" she asked Fleet Admiral Winston Morgan. 20 battle groups deployed across 7 sectors, Morgan replied, studying the holographic display. "The Confederation's defensive line is crumbling. Their standardized tactics make them predictable. Every time they adapt to one of our strategies, we switch to something completely different." The Prometheus's quantum sensors detected a Confederation battle group attempting to ambush them from behind a gas giant. Morgan smiled. "They're still thinking in terms of traditional space warfare. Launch the Wraith squadrons." What emerged from the Prometheus wasn't traditional fighters, but a new hybrid of human and alien technology. The Wraith ships could phase between normal space and a quantum state, making them virtually impossible to target. Their weapons combined kinetic projectiles with energy fields in ways that bypassed Confederation shields. On Nexus Prime, junior analyst Cree, now promoted to senior strategic advisor after being the only one to warn of human capabilities, reviewed the latest battle reports. "They're not just winning battles," she explained to the Council. They're systematically dismantling our entire military doctrine. Each engagement teaches them more about our weaknesses. The human advance was relentless. Confederation worlds that had never known war found themselves facing an enemy that had spent centuries perfecting the art of combat. Traditional defensive formations proved useless against human tactics that seemed to defy logic itself. In the Prometheus's tactical center, Lieutenant Commander Rajesh Kumar coordinated with Earth's distributed AI network, another technology they had kept hidden during the initial invasion. The Confederation relies too heavily on centralized command and control, he explained to Dr. Patel. Their entire military is built around preset responses and approved tactics. They can't handle our adaptive warfare approach. Their conversation was interrupted by a priority alert. A massive Confederation fleet had emerged from hyperspace, led by their legendary dreadnought, the Immortal Dominion. Grand Admiral Thex had apparently decided to make his stand. They've gathered every remaining capital ship in their fleet, Morgan observed. Over 2,000 vessels. They think numbers will overwhelm us. He opened a channel to all Earth ships in the sector. Initiate Operation Checkmate. What followed would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for centuries to come. The human fleet didn't engage in traditional combat. Instead, they executed a complex dance of quantum jumps, appearing and disappearing across the battlefield in patterns that seemed random but were precisely calculated. The Confederation fleet's formation began to break apart as they tried to track multiple threats appearing from impossible angles. Their advanced AI systems, programmed for logical battle progression, couldn't adapt to human tactics that deliberately embraced chaos theory. Now, Morgan commanded, deploy the quantum cascade. Dr. Patel activated humanity's latest weapon, a device that used the Confederation's own quantum communications network against them. The effect was devastating. Enemy ships lost coordination as their command and control systems collapsed. Impossible, Grand Admiral Thex whispered as he watched his fleet tear itself apart in confusion. How could they understand our technology better than we do? The answer came from an unexpected source. Kree, watching the battle's telemetry, finally understood. They didn't just copy our technology, she reported to the stunned council. They looked at it with fresh eyes, free from the assumptions we've built up over millennia. Where we saw finished products, they saw starting points for innovation. The battle ended in less than an hour. The mighty Confederation fleet was reduced to scattered groups of retreating ships. The Immortal Dominion itself was captured, its advanced technology already being studied by eager human engineers. In the aftermath, Dr. Patel toured the captured dreadnought with Admiral Morgan. Their technology is incredibly advanced, she noted, but they stopped innovating centuries ago. They found solutions that worked and never questioned if there might be better ways. Morgan nodded, watching human technicians already beginning to integrate new systems into the captured vessel. That was their greatest weakness. They thought technological superiority alone guaranteed victory. They never understood that technology is just a tool. It's how you use it that matters. Back on Earth, Director Chen received the battle reports with satisfaction. Phase 3 is complete, he announced to the Global Defense Council. The Confederation's military backbone is broken. Now comes the real challenge. You mean the political phase? Colonel Voss asked, reviewing plans for the next stage of human expansion. Exactly, Chen replied. We've proven we can defeat them. Now we have to show them why they should work with us instead of fear us. The real test of humanity's strength isn't in winning wars, it's in building peace. As the news of the Confederation's defeat spread across the galaxy, thousands of worlds faced a stark reality. The species they had planned to enslave was now the dominant military power in known space. But humanity's response would surprise them yet again, and prove that their greatest strength wasn't their ability to wage war, but their capacity to forge a new and better future from the ashes of conflict. The great halls of the Confederation capital on Centaurus Prime, once a symbol of absolute power, now held a different atmosphere. The crystal spires that had witnessed thousands of years of unchallenged authority now watched as a new order took shape. Humanity, the species they had planned to enslave, sat at the head of the negotiating table. Ambassador Kai Nakamura, representing the United Earth government, studied the faces of the assembled alien representatives. Where once there had been arrogance, now there was uncertainty. Where there had been contempt, now there was fear. It was time to show them a different path. "We are not here to subjugate you," Nakamura began, his words echoing through the chamber. "We are not here to harvest your worlds or enslave your people. We are here to build something new." Senior Strategic Advisor Kree, now serving as liaison between Earth and the Confederation, watched the proceedings with fascination. The humans continued to surprise her. Victory had given them absolute power, yet they wielded it with unexpected restraint. The old Confederation was built on a foundation of superiority and exploitation, Nakamura continued. "We propose a new alliance, founded on principles of mutual respect and shared progress." In orbit above Centaurus Prime, Admiral Morgan and Dr. Patel monitored the negotiations from the Prometheus. Their fleet's presence was both protection and reminder. Humanity's strength remained ready, but its purpose had changed. "The terms are straightforward," Nakamura explained, activating a holographic display. "First, all species, regardless of technological advancement, will have equal representation in the new Galactic Council. The practice of harvesting less advanced civilizations ends today." The alien representatives shifted uncomfortably. High Counselor Zenlax, his crystalline robes now dulled with shame, spoke up. "You would give primitive species equal voice with advanced civilizations. This defies millennia of established order." "The same established order that led you to underestimate us," Nakamura replied calmly. "Innovation comes from diversity of thought and experience. Your civilization stagnated because you stopped learning from others." Dr. Patel's voice came through on a private channel to Nakamura's neural implant. "We're detecting increased quantum communications between the outer colonies. They're debating whether to accept our terms." The ambassador continued, unveiling the next phase of humanity's plan. "Earth will share its technological innovations with all member worlds. Our advances in quantum mechanics, our hybrid drive systems, our adaptive AI networks, all will be available to societies that join the new alliance." This announcement sent shockwaves through the assembly. Humanity wasn't just offering peace. They were offering advancement beyond what the Confederation had achieved in centuries. "But how can we trust," a reptilian delegate asked, "that you won't use this alliance to dominate us as we once planned to dominate you?" Nakamura smiled. "Because the third term of our proposal is complete military transparency. All member worlds will have access to each other's defense capabilities. No more hidden fleets, no more secret weapons. Trust through verification." In the Earth Embassy on Centaurus Prime, Director Chen watched the proceedings with Colonel Voss. "They still don't fully understand us," he mused. "They think we're offering these terms out of moral superiority." "Aren't we?" Voss asked, reviewing security protocols for the hundreds of alien diplomats requesting meetings with Earth representatives. "We're offering these terms because humanity learned long ago that true strength comes from cooperation, not domination. Our history of conflict taught us that victory without reconciliation only plants the seeds of future wars." The negotiations continued for weeks. Each day brought new challenges, as centuries of ingrained hierarchy and prejudice were dismantled. But slowly, a new galactic society began to take shape. Kree found herself working closely with Dr. Patel, helping to bridge the cultural gaps between human and alien thinking. "Your species continues to confound expectations," she admitted. "You have the power to rule the galaxy, yet you choose to rebuild it instead." "Ruling through fear creates only temporary stability," Patel replied, showing her the latest designs for a joint human-alien research facility. "We want to build something that will last beyond our generation." As the final treaties were drawn up, Ambassador Nakamura made one last address to the assembly. "The true test of civilization isn't in achieving technological superiority or military might. It's in using that power to lift up others, to create a society where advancement comes through cooperation rather than conquest. The signing ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. Thousands of worlds watched as the old Confederation was dissolved and a new galactic alliance was born. Human ships, once seen as harbingers of destruction, now carried diplomatic missions and scientific expeditions to the farthest reaches of known space. "They've embraced your vision more quickly than expected," Morgan noted to Nakamura, watching alien ships and human vessels conducting joint exercises. "Because deep down they knew their system was unsustainable," the ambassador replied. "We didn't just defeat their military, we showed them a better way forward." As the new alliance took shape, humanity's true victory became clear. They had not just prevented their own enslavement, they had transformed a galaxy. The species that the Confederation had dismissed as primitive had become not their conquerors, but their teachers, showing them that true civilization is built not on the power to destroy, but on the wisdom to unite. 5 years after the formation of the Galactic Alliance, the changes across known space were profound. The gleaming spires of the new Alliance Center on Earth's moon stood as a symbol of transformation, hosting representatives from over 500 civilizations, including species that the old Confederation had once marked for harvesting. Director Chen, now serving as Earth Security Council representative, stood at the observation deck watching ships from dozens of worlds moving through lunar orbit. Some were original Confederation designs, others human vessels, but most interesting were the new hybrid ships that represented true collaboration between species. "Another pre-FTL civilization made contact today," reported Admiral Morgan, joining him at the window. "They chose to reveal themselves after centuries of hiding, said they'd been watching the Confederation, afraid of being harvested. Now they want to join the Alliance." The discovery that Earth hadn't been the only world hiding its true capabilities had been one of the most surprising outcomes of the past 5 years. Dozens of supposedly primitive civilizations had revealed advanced technologies they'd kept hidden, fearing Confederation exploitation. In the Alliance's Advanced Research Division, Dr. Patel worked alongside Kree and scientists from 30 different species. The former Confederation analyst had become one of the strongest advocates for human methods of innovation. The breakthrough came from combining Zentarian quantum theory with human chaos mathematics, Kree explained to a group of new researchers. "Something we never would have considered under the old system. By removing the hierarchical approach to scientific advancement, we've made more progress in 5 years than the Confederation saw in a century." The collaborative approach was bearing fruit across all fields. The same human adaptability that had proved so devastating in war was now driving unprecedented advances in medicine, energy production, and environmental restoration. Ambassador Nakamura, preparing for another council session, reviewed the latest reports with satisfaction. The transition hadn't been entirely smooth. Centuries of ingrained prejudices didn't disappear overnight, but the results were undeniable. Trade between worlds had tripled. Scientific breakthroughs were happening weekly. Former enemy species were working together on joint colonies. "We're ready for the Phase 4 announcement," Colonel Voss informed him. Now serving as Chief of Alliance Security, she had been instrumental in creating new defensive protocols that emphasized cooperation over competition. The council chamber filled with representatives from across the galaxy. Some attended in person, others appeared as sophisticated holograms, but all held equal voice in the proceedings. Nakamura took the central podium, conscious of the historic nature of this moment. 5 years ago, we gathered to forge a new path forward," he began. "Today, we take the next step. Our deep space explorers have confirmed the existence of intelligent life in the Andromeda Galaxy. The Alliance Council has approved first contact missions to begin within the year." The announcement sparked excited discussion throughout the chamber. Under the old Confederation, such a discovery would have led to discussions of harvest potential. Now, the focus was on peaceful contact and cultural exchange. In her private quarters, Kree reviewed historical footage from the failed invasion of Earth. "We thought we were coming to harvest a primitive species," she narrated for her official archives. Instead, we found teachers. Human history, filled with conflict and challenge, forged a species uniquely qualified to unite the galaxy. They understood something we had forgotten, that true strength lies not in domination, but in the ability to turn enemies into allies. The Alliance's success had profound effects on member worlds. Former Confederation societies, once rigid and hierarchical, were experiencing cultural renaissances. Contact with humanity had awakened long-dormant traits of creativity and innovation. Young aliens increasingly adopted human approaches to problem-solving, combining them with their own traditions to create something new. On the Prometheus, now serving as a diplomatic vessel, Admiral Morgan shared a quiet moment with Dr. Patel. "Did you ever imagine, when we were hiding our capabilities all those years, that it would end like this?" "Not like this," she admitted, watching a group of alien children touring the ship's bridge, part of the Alliance's cultural exchange program. "We prepared for war, but we created peace. We expected to fight for survival, but we ended up building something greater than ourselves." In the Alliance Center's historical wing, a simple artifact drew constant visitors, the original proclamation that had declared Earth a harvest world. Beside it stood the new Alliance Charter, its first article clearly stating, "All species, regardless of their level of advancement, possess inherent worth and dignity. The strong exist not to dominate the weak, but to help them rise." Director Chen, making his final inspection before retirement, paused before these documents. A young alien child, part of a school group, asked him, "Is it true your people could have conquered the galaxy?" "We could have," Chen replied, smiling gently. "But conquest only builds empires, and empires fall. What humanity wanted to build was something more lasting, a civilization where every species can reach its full potential. Because the greatest victory isn't in ruling others, but in helping them rule themselves." As night fell on the lunar surface, the stars visible through the dome seemed brighter somehow. Ships of all designs moved through space, carrying beings who had once been enemies but were now partners in the greatest peaceful expansion in galactic history. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged not just victorious, but transformed, proving that the ultimate measure of a civilization lies not in its power to destroy, but in its choice to create. The species that the Confederation had once planned to enslave had instead become the architects of a new age, teaching the galaxy that true strength lies not in the ability to take freedom away, but in the wisdom to give it to others. The future that stretched before them was not just peaceful, but filled with endless possibilities for growth and discovery, a future where the combined potential of all species could finally be realized.